Welcome back to Slashback Cinema, where we rewind the blood-soaked VHS tapes of horror history and sometimes end up in a place. Look, I'm trying to work here. Do you mind?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. All right, yeah.
uh, welcome back to Slashback Cinema, where we rewind the blood-soaked VHS tapes. I'm not changing it. We're going with this one. Where we rewind the blood-soaked VHS tapes of horror history and sometimes end up in a place way weirder than we expected.
Indeed. Tonight we're stepping into the twisted Technicolor fever dream that is House or Hausa.
Mhm.
Obayashi's 1977 Japanese horror classic that's part haunted house movie, part music video, and part high school acid trip.
It's like if Scooby-Doo dropped acid, watched Suspiria, and then got eaten by a piano. You think you've seen weird? You haven't seen House.
This movie really has everything: a mirror that eats people, a killer mattress, and a watermelon that, well, we'll talk about that later. We're going to get to the watermelon.
So bring your nicknames and get ready to laugh, scream, and ask, what the hell did I just watch? Before we
Oh,
get
man.
started, we just have a quick request. If you're enjoying Slashback Cinema, please consider sharing the show with your friends.
Word of mouth is really the best way for new people to find the show.
And if you're digging the deep cuts, creepy trivia, and retro horror vibe we serve up each Tuesday, consider giving us a rating and review on your favorite podcast app. Your ratings help new listeners find the show. I watched a lot of this movie with my mouth open in utter amazement at what I was watching.
Oh my God. I had the exact same thoughts and feelings after watching this one. After I pulled my jaw off the floor, I had to hold myself back from not texting you or calling you right away. Um,
What a wild experience this movie is.
yeah, unhinged and unlike anything I'd ever seen. Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
we actually could not have seen this movie because it didn't make it stateside until I think it was like 2009. So it was
Yeah.
exclusively in Japan, or it was probably in very small collector circles, but it wasn't widely distributed. I say widely. It is on HBO Max now. Truly a gift, and definitely. I can confidently say I don't think I've ever seen anything like this movie.
What was that video store we used to go to near our house in Baltimore?
Oh, Video Americane. Yeah, they probably
Yes.
had it, or I'm sure they knew about it, or had some bootleg copy somewhere that was probably
Yeah.
didn't have subtitles.
Right.
Yeah,
I can't believe this movie did not become more well known until the 2000s. It's just it's just an insane masterpiece. There's nothing like it has ever been made. I usually like to start with like what our relationship with this movie was. Our relationship with this movie started this weekend. So we have no history of this film. Did you
yeah.
watch it alone, by the way, or did you watch it with someone in your family?
I was trying to get Lessa to watch it, which I actually think she would have enjoyed it. But before we get rolling, spoiler alert, we will talk about the movie in a fair amount of detail. So if you're interested in having your mind blown without any pre-game and just jumping in cold, maybe watch it, come back. And this movie is probably a good litmus test to assess where you stand in relation to the slashback cinema approach to
Right.
films. Because if you read the reviews on this, this could be a very polarizing movie. Some people have praised this movie as brilliant and truly masterpiece. I would just like to read this one review that popped up. I think it was IMDb.
Okay.
I can't get over how many people love this movie. I guess more people take acid than I thought. This movie can have a strong purpose, however, if you wish to dump your significant other, force them to watch this. I may divorce my husband after he forced me to watch this nonsense.
This is one review.
This is one review. I just bring that up because I feel like this movie will evoke emotions from you. It could be
Yes.
confusion, it could be anger, it could be a state of glorious appreciation. So yeah, let us know where you land on this one.
Yeah, here's a review that says House's spirit of let's pretend goes too far. um, completely disagree, but we got to get into this. You want to hit us with a little overview?
Sure. So it follows the story of these seven school age girls. Summer vacations coming up, and it follows the story of this one in particular, gorgeous. I guess she was going to have some.
Wait, I want to be clear here. Ryan is not using the adjective to describe this girl.
Oh, good clarification.
He's not just tossing out some gorgeous woman in a movie. The names of these seven women, this is how I know there's seven of them, are named after their personalities. So there's a character named Gorgeous. She's the pretty one. A character named Melody. She's the musical one. A character named Kung Fu. She's obviously the fighter. Then Fantasy is the name of a character. I'm assuming
Yes.
because she has a big imagination.
Yep.
Then Prof. She's the one who wears glasses and
Yeah,
is a
brainy.
smart one. And then Sweet is the one who likes cleaning. I guess she's sweet, like kind. I thought maybe she was gonna like candy, but there's another girl named Mac, and she's the one who talks about food all the time.
Right. And name
So,
short for stomach, apparently.
oh, okay. I thought it was McDonald's.
I don't know. Yeah.
You're probably right. So tell us about, so Gorgeous is the main character.
Yes, Gorgeous is the main character, and she's planning her summer vacation. She finds out that her dad is now involved with another woman, and they've got plans for her. And she's like, "Well, screw that. I'm going to go see Auntie, who lives out in the country, and invite all my friends from school to go with me." So they pack up their bags. They do this big trip out to the country, and then go to this house. And the house has a complicated history, and Auntie is maybe not who she seems. And quickly, the girls come to find out that this is a haunted house that basically has it in for all of them.
Right.
So the story is about them trying to escape and defeat the house. And I will say that it plays out in ways that you would not expect, or there's no way you could anticipate what this movie is going to bring you in terms of a plot line. So
And yeah, and the only thing that we should add is the cat, because there's a white cat. Do you remember the name of the cat?
oh, Blanche. Yeah.
Yes, Blanche, right.
Yeah.
And Blanche is the aunt's cat. The Sometimes it seems like the aunt is the one causing the mayhem, and sometimes the cat is the one causing the mayhem. And the cat's eyes will sort of glow green. And that's the other thing I love about this movie, is that the sounds
Yes.
are so bizarre and cartoony.
So
There's
bizarre. Yeah. The audio clips, also the soundtrack is wild. Like I would say
Yes.
one thing about this film that you would not think it would work, but it has such a insane style of editing and kind of effects. And there was like I felt like I was watching, was it Sidney Croft, the like 70s 80s like HR Puffin stuff style.
Oh yeah, yeah.
TV, and then there was like Monty Python-esque like clips thrown in, like crazy editing that felt like it was very maybe on trend in Japan in the 70s when this was made.
Yes.
Like it was such a montage of styles, sound effects, music, but really a cornucopia of
Yes.
everything. Yeah.
A lot of people have pointed out it's got a little bit of Suspiria energy, although it's much wilder than Suspiria in terms of how it uses light and color. Suspiria seems really controlled. The director uses these very specific colors for very specific reasons. This movie, it just seems like crazy shit is happening all over the place at all times. And the most unpredictable use of film. He might be one of the most original filmmakers. Like, he does stuff in movies that I feel like I couldn't decide if he was a genius and he just knew things about film and could do anything, or if he had never seen a movie in his life. Because it sometimes felt like he was putting stuff on screen that nobody would have ever thought to do the way that he does it.
Did you read about the backdrop or background of this film at all? Like how it got made? And
A little bit. So yeah, talk about that.
so apparently, so it was Toho Studios, if I'm getting that right. They were kind of one of the big film studios in Japan. They did the Godzilla movies, blockbusters. Apparently, it was set up that you had to be one of their directors in their world to make a film for that studio. I think Jaws had just come out in the U.S. and it was this blockbuster, and so Toho and all the Japanese film execs were like, "Oh, we need to make the Japanese version of Jaws," and somehow they decided that Obayashi, this unknown director, he had only been doing like commercials prior to this. So with that, thinking, okay, this is going to be the Japanese Jaws, just go watch this movie. Because I'm like thinking to myself, what was happening in Japan in the 70s? This was their interpretation of Jaws. Like,
Yes.
my God.
So we got to get into this. We got to talk about some of the details here.
It was interesting because it played on so many levels. It was like a haunted house, but it had like this unique style to it in a really unhinged way. But there was also an element, it felt like kind of Grimm's fairy tales. There was like this kind of like fantasy, but very dark. And then the backdrop, apparently the director's direct experience of World War II and Hiroshima and all of the devastation. He lost a lot of friends to the war and the atomic bomb. So that's kind of woven into a bit of this story and the way it shows up in this film. Lots going on this one.
I saw an interview with Obayashi where he talks about that. So he says in the interview, all of his friends died in Hiroshima. And when he made this movie in 77, he was reflecting on the fact that the current generation that was like 15 to 20 years old, they had no connection to what had happened in Japan in the 40s. And so this movie kind of explores that a little bit. As crazy as the storyline is, it is kind of like this disconnect between the like a younger generation and the older generation. But in some ways, I think it's like the violence of the older generation because the girls I was really interested in like were they going to survive in the end? Were they going to overcome the monster? And spoiler alert, they do not. The monster overcomes them. And so it's the story that this guy tells in the 70s is like eventually the darkness overcomes them. And usually I don't like movies like that because I just leave them just feeling like they've darkened a part of me. Like
Yeah.
the real world is dark enough. I don't need to see that. But this movie just, it was fascinating. And it didn't bother me like it normally would. I think because it was so peculiar.
So surreal. Yeah.
You want to talk about some favorite scenes?
We can talk about some scenes. I mean, boy, there are so many in this film. If I just had to choose my top one, there's a scene where basically the girls have been battling the house, and now it's focused on Kung Fu, the character Kung Fu, who
Yes.
is trying to save the last three remaining girls against the house. So she basically goes on this full-on kung fu battle with not only the furniture but the phone. She's
Yes.
kicking things through the walls, flying out, and it culminates in her battling the. It's now Gorgeous has become the embodiment of the house and this like demon ghost dressed in traditional Japanese garb. And the way he shoots this, I'm like, I hope he does this. And he does. Like, it's this kung fu movie of her battling the ghost in the 70s kung
Yeah.
fu. They're flying through the air, the sound effects, everything. Like,
Yes,
yeah,
there's a lot of that.
flying onto the roof, flying through the sky.
Yes.
And it ends with her getting thrown back into the house and she realizing she has to take out the painting of the cat. That's where all the
Yes.
demonic forces coming from. Well, the light fixture gets her, eats her up, and she gets sucked into this psychedelic thing. Well, Kung Fu won't give up the fight, though. Her severed legs fly out from the chandelier and proceed to Kung Fu kick the cat painting and destroy it. Like,
Yes. Yeah. Are you still with us, audience? Are you
yeah,
hearing? Are you getting all
yes,
this?
yeah.
Yes.
So wow, like,
Yes, the scene in which her severed legs jump out of the light, out of the light, and then kick the cat photo, and then the cat photo starts throwing up blood. So insane. It's funny when you said my favorite scene, I had no idea which one you were going to say because I in my notes wrote favorite scene like three different times. My favorite scene is the piano scene where
yes,
Melody she's playing the piano. And then the way this guy directed it is so much more insane than whatever you could ever picture in your head. It's like his imagination is greater than your imagination, whatever your imagination is. So essentially, she's playing the piano and the piano eats her and like it's a grand piano. So it like pulls in her whole body and then she's wrapped around
chomp,
the
chomp,
piano
chomp, chomp.
wire
Right, yeah.
and the piano's chomping on her and then like there's just like legs and hands flying off and then when the girls come into the room the piano has bitten off her fingers but the fingers are still playing the same song she was playing before and
Like ghostly fingers dancing on the keys.
yes.
And to build on what you're saying, in a normal horror movie, it would be this grotesque thing, the piano's eating her. The way it is filmed, it is like 60s, 70s psychedelic
Mhm.
surrealness, the Monty Python weird animation style, colors and stop motion. It becomes this almost like artsy take on what could be this horrible scene. So I mean, I think that's probably part of when you're talking about the movie didn't leave you feeling like a darker version of yourself. It was done in such a surreal way that like, yeah, it was a terrible story, but like the way it's told and the way you experience it is
Mhm.
not like a normal film.
Right. It's so wild. It's so experimental and just suggestive of piano eating a person, right? It just like implies it. You skip the part of the kung fu fight that is one of my favorite parts, which is she's outside chopping logs
Oh
to put in a
yeah.
fire, and then the logs jump up after she's chopped them. They like reform into logs, and then they're on fire, and then they start flying at her, and she starts jumping up and attacking them. But I love that it's done. There's a certain Japanese style where they didn't necessarily have the money in the 70s and 80s to do the kind of wire work you would need. So it's just you see log flying at person with speed lines behind it, and then you see Kung Fu make a pose, and then you see Kung Fu's hand flying through the air.
Yeah.
And
It's very Speed Racer style.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, Ryan, speaking of Speed Racer, boy, you already alluding to our quiz for today, so
Oh
our trivia
boy.
game. So
Okay.
funny you should mention it. Yes, it
Nice.
definitely has like a Speed Racer kind of energy to it. I can't believe this guy didn't do drugs. How is that possible that you could come up with these visuals and not have done acid? This guy's visual imagination is remarkable.
Wow. And did he say that he didn't do drugs? I didn't
I
read
never
into his
found,
drug
yes,
use. Okay.
I never found anything. I mean, maybe he was like traumatized by the war, and maybe that's why he is the way he is. But I found nothing online to explain that. But the visual things that he comes up with and the way that he communicates what's happening on screen is so bizarre. And they cut to the aunt later on, and she's like eating body parts. And one of the YouTube videos I watched said that they think she was eating like Mac, but I don't know how you'd figure that out.
Well, I think because it was like those earlier scenes with the body parts, so that was the first girl that had gotten eaten. So I think
Right.
that was the link there because there was like an arm or hand or something. And yeah, you watch the aunt when they first show up to the house. She's in this wheelchair and very frail looking. And suddenly, after Matt goes missing, she's up out of the wheelchair and she's like, "I feel great." And you realize that like the spirit of the house is manifested in the aunt who's reviving herself by eating all the young girls, not only
Oh
currently
yeah.
there, but in the past had eaten all the other young girls in the village who would come for piano lessons. So, this house has a bad rep, and this aunt is not to be trusted.
If you were watching this as a teenager in Japan in 1977 or 78, do you think the movie was supposed to be funny, or does it just seem funny to us because it's been 50 years and the movie, just through our current eyes, just seems so odd?
I, it's a really good question. I was thinking about culturally what the reaction was to this film. It was a hit in Japan,
Yeah.
so but right, was it a hit because they thought it was funny? Did they think it was horrific? Like both. It's hard to see this movie not think you would find it funny or wild no matter where you were living in the world, but who knows? Maybe that's just our ethnocentric perspective being brought to this film. But I did almost reach out to I had a former coworker that grew up in Japan, and I wanted to like hit him
Yes.
up and be like, "Do you know this movie? Was it even on your radar?" Toho Studios was trying to figure out how to market this film and where
Hmm.
what audience this movie should be shown to. One of the pieces of trivia was they talked about potentially showing it at an annual children's film festival that they hosted.
Oh
Like
my
the
God.
demographic would have been like, 6 to 12-year-olds. Apparently some exec got their head on straight and decided that was a bad idea. Like
There's one moment when they slice up the watermelon and they all start eating it. One of the girls, she looks over at the aunt who's enjoying her slice of watermelon, and then the aunt smiles, and inside of her mouth is an eyeball.
yes. That keeps
What-
moving around.
yeah, yeah. It's so playful and silly. Even though it's definitely a horror movie, it's not horrifying. It's more like just wild and
Yeah.
kooky. And
Yep.
I think when you read those Grimm's fairy tales, I mean, those are original versions of Hansel and Gretel and Cinderella are much darker than this movie. So I don't know. Maybe kids would have been okay watching it. Who knows? It occurred to me at a certain point that the aunt
Yeah.
comes out in a wheelchair, but then she can walk, and then later she's dancing on the top of a rail, and then once or twice she looks at the camera and just smiles at you directly, like, "Eh, are you liking this?" So like you were in on it. To be serious for a second, or just to reflect on things, watching this movie made me think how much of the media we watch is just carbon copies of
Yeah.
the media that came before, right? Just every movie director is just doing what they saw in their childhood and what they saw in their childhood. You see that with comic books. We talked about that, where like the people that are doing horror comics today are people that read Neil Gaiman, 25 years ago, or the other great horror writers that did comics. And so you get this kind of like photocopy quality to popular culture. And then you see a movie like this, and you think you really could do much more with movies than we ever experience, right? The fact that you and I have never seen anything like this movie and didn't even know it existed, it makes you think about how much of the media you watch is just repeating itself and is just copying everything that has gone on before. And then you see a completely original mind go like, I'm going to do something with movie. It makes me think about, I know this is going to sound really pretentious, but when you read about great artists at the time they made their art and people didn't understand them, Van Gogh is like this and Picasso, where they were just doing something so different than what was happening in the culture that people couldn't even react. They had no idea what the hell was going on. The music, The Rite of Spring by Stravinsky has this quality of when an artist actually does something that's genuinely different than what's going on, it just melts people's minds because they
Yeah.
can't make sense of it because he's not doing or she's not doing what is deemed as art or what's deemed as media or what's deemed as appropriate storytelling. And then it's like not until maybe years, decades, centuries later when people recognize, oh, that guy's a genius. That's what this I thought of with this movie. Like
Yeah.
this guy was genuinely able to do something and tell stories and tell this story in a way that I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen a movie do any of these things before, and have these kinds of super weird edits and dissolves and weird visuals. You think, holy shit! Most of the media I watch is very unoriginal. Imagine if everyone tried this hard to be original. Movies would be so much more fun.
Yeah. Spot on. I mean, he did smash whatever was the norm or typical approach. This does
Yeah.
stand apart. And I was thinking about that too, in terms of you're talking about kind of like carbon copies or just kind of duplication or kind of edits of what's been done. And I mean, particularly relevant with AI in terms of
Hmm.
what's happening there, because it's just feeding off of what's been done, and people are taking,
Right.
like Spirited Away. Who's the director?
Miyazaki.
Miyazaki. Yeah.
Yes.
So right, yeah, like with Miyazaki, you can now just drop that and say, "Give me this look and feel of Miyazaki," and it's like
Right.
carbon copy of like his stuff is so beautiful, and you're just watching the soul get sucked out of it. So we're in this space where like you're just gonna see repetitions and edits on what's been done, and it makes you think, well, is there anything left new to bring to the surface? And boy, if there was more of House in the world, like it was incredibly refreshing to watch this film and just see, wow, here's somebody doing his own thing.
Yes, I really like that the connection that you're making to AI there, because I do feel like what I have in mind is like the Marvel universe, where those movies made billions and billions of dollars, and so Disney and Marvel are just trying to like make the same movie over and over again. And it seems like just superhero movies are in this rut where they're all the same. But you're right, AI is going to make this even worse because AI has gotten really good at just mimicking kind of the generic version of every movie, every book, every poem, every song.
Anything,
And
yeah.
and so the stuff that it produces is kind of like it's good enough that often I think it's acceptable. It's not bad. So it's hard to be critical of it. But when you get exposed to something that's like genuinely original, it's almost like you don't know how to respond to it because we're not used to seeing completely original artists anymore, like tell stories or
Right.
completely different ways of seeing the world.
Let's bring it in for Stabby scores. Let's do
All
it.
right.
You're
I,
driving this one. What do you got?
I feel like when we watched the movie Basket Case very early on in the podcast, I was just gushing over how original it was. Basket Case is definitely not a perfect movie, but it was a movie where you could tell it was just driven by a unique mind. And I really like the point you made about this AI world we're in. So I think what resonates with me is when you see, I'm just going to say, like a real artist produce a kind of story and tell something that is clearly the vision of like one person's ingenious brain. And I don't even care necessarily if it like works all the way or if it like is the greatest movie ever told. I just really appreciate and respect like somebody just going out there and like doing something totally new. And so I say House deserves 5 stabbies, unquestionably. It almost doesn't even fit into any of the. I mean, look, we love The Thing. Is this movie like The Thing? Is this one of the greatest movies of all time? It's one of the most original movies of all time. How about you, Ryan? What did you think?
I think this is why we're friends, Shani. Like, because I do think it could be a very polarizing film, depending on where your headspace is, your tastes for cinema, how you like your stories to be told. Watching this, I felt like I haven't seen a film that's like had me almost like on my heels the whole time, just from the point of view of like you just didn't know where it was going to go next,
Yeah.
and it kept surprising me in ways that were equal parts horrific but delightful in the way that he filmed them. Like that's such a weird thing to say, but so
Hmm.
surreal, so weird. Definitely a unique vision of how he's going to tell this story, but it was also grounded in everything we just talked about. Like it felt like this familiar universal tale of like it's a witch, a haunted
Yeah.
house, and who do you trust, and the way the story goes from there. But really fun, and like I felt like my life had become a little bit better now that I had seen this movie. So
Yes, yes. I mean, I'm laughing, but I totally agree with you. I do think watching this movie makes you think about what is a movie supposed to be and why do so many of our movies look exactly like every other movie? When you see this movie, it really makes you question, oh, Like so much of what we're absorbing is just a photocopy of a
Yeah,
photocopy.
rinse and repeat, and then maybe you change a couple things. So yeah,
Right.
5 stabs for an original vision of wacky weirdness and somebody doing his own thing. And yeah, are there flaws? Will you say this is the most peak horror movie if you're defining traditional horror? Like no, but as an artist doing his own thing and really bringing something unique into the world, yeah, 5 stabs.
Shall we play a game?
All right, Ryan, are you ready to play a game?
Bonnie, I'm ready to play a game.
You earlier talked about the fact that there's a fight sequence that has the kind of visual energy of like a Speed Racer episode.
Yes.
And so I've got 6 questions. All 6 questions are about the classic Japanese animated cartoon that we remember from the 1970s, Speed Racer. Were you a fan of Speed Racer, Ryan?
I was a big fan. Although, boy, that's going back. Like that's
Yes.
really 70s. So I could be fuzzy. We'll see. I'm quickly like running through my Rolodex of Speed Racer memories.
Did you see the movie that came out a couple years ago by the Wachowskis?
I
guess
don't know
it
that
was more than 10 years ago.
I saw clips of it. I never saw the whole thing,
Okay.
but I'm
So I don't
familiar
think
with it.
it'll be
Yeah.
very interesting because I think I try to respect the fact that you haven't seen an episode of Speed Racer in probably 40 years. So these are not going to be, I found up really obscure questions. Who was the third driver in episode 7?
Oh my God. Okay.
None of that stuff. It's nothing insane like
I'm
that.
trying to like quickly like bring to the surface any Speed Racer memories. So I've got a few. I'm extracting from the
Yes.
core. I'm ready to go.
Do you remember the theme song of Speed Racer?
Yeah.
You want to hit us with a little
Boy,
Speed Racer?
like go Speed Racer, go something like that. Like
That's
I don't
pretty
know.
good. You got it. Yeah, nicely done. All right. So, Ryan, question number 1. Who is Speed Racer's mysterious rival who often helps him in secret? Is it Speed Shadow? Is it Racer X? Or is it Phantom Driver? Who is Speed Racer's mysterious rival who sometimes helps him in secret?
Okay. Like as soon as you said Speed Racer, I was like, oh my God, what shaking the cage to see what marbles fall out. It's Racer X.
Yes, well done, sir. Point 1 for you. This one blew me away. What is Speed Racer's real first name? Is it Rex? Is it Speed? Is it Max? Or is it Go?
Oh damn. It's either Rex or Speed, but I think Rex was his brother. I'm gonna go with Speed.
Speed Racer's first name was Go.
What?
Yes. So when they're singing Go Speed Racer, are they just saying his name or are they telling him that he needs to go faster?
These excellent question.
I was shocked.
Wait, am I totally imagining the Rex thing? Like
No, you got that right. Rex was his brother.
his
Yeah,
brother?
Racer
Okay.
X. Yes.
Okay. All right.
So question number 3, who is Speed Racer's girlfriend and frequent co-pilot? Was her name Lucy, Trixie, Tammy, or Lisa?
It would be Trixie.
Did you have a thing for Trixie?
Yeah, I appreciated the relationship. Like I did not covet Trixie though. Yeah.
All right, question number 4. You're doing well. You got 2 out of 3. Question number 4, what is the profession of Pops, Speed Racer's father? Was he a car salesman? Was he a racer himself? Was he a police officer? Or was he a mechanic?
Pops was a mechanic. Although he might have been a racer in the past, but yeah.
In the past, yes.
Yeah.
But in the show, he's a mechanic. Yes. He also
Yeah.
designs cars, but I just grouped that as mechanic. Very good. 3 out of 4.
All right.
What is the name of Speed's younger brother who often hides in the trunk? Is it Sparky? Is it Chim Chim? Is it Spritle? Or is it Spike?
Yeah. I'm gonna go Spritle.
Spritle is correct.
Oh thank
Yes.
God.
Yes. Question number 6. What animal is Sprite's sidekick? Was it a monkey, a dog, a cat, or a parrot? And it was
It was a monkey.
5 out of 6. And the one you
Wow.
didn't get, I want to say, is Speed Racer's first name, which no one's getting that.
All
I
right.
think you did extremely well with your Speed Racer knowledge. Do you remember what year you saw an episode of Speed Racer? 1980, perhaps?
Well, what year? It must have been a late 70s, early 80s show. That was one of
Yeah.
the first, I feel like, Japanese cartoons that came stateside. And then later there was way more of them, like
Right,
Voltron,
Voltron,
and
yes.
Transwar
Yeah, so-
Z. There was a lot of like in that style, but like that was
Right.
very early.
Yeah,
So,
Speed
yeah.
Racer laid the ground.
So what year was that? That's probably early 80s that we
So
watched that.
what I found
so.
out is in Japan, a Speed Racer came out from 1967 to 1968. It had 1 year, and they made 52 episodes in that 1 year, and that was it. And then I couldn't figure
Really?
out. I was trying to find out like what year it played in the U.S., but it's not like it had one network that played it. I couldn't quite pin it down. I mean, this is before cable.
And so it must have been like on UHF. It wasn't the mainstream 3 network channels. It would have been like the fuzzy stuff. I feel like it was always running though. Why 10 years later did they pick up one random show from Japan and decide that was
Yeah.
gonna, but because I feel like around that same time period, it was like all the car shows. It was like Dukes of Hazzard and A-Team and Knight Rider. Like they were like, oh, this will do great with the kids. And yep, they were right.
That's actually a really good call. There was this period in the 1980s where there was lots of car-related TV shows, like Knight Rider, like in the movies there was Cannonball Run, and so
Smokey
Speed
and
Racer.
the Bandit. Yeah.
Yes, it fits into this like time period of pop culture where there's just a lot of like car and truck shows.
Remember that. You're right. Yeah.
Here comes Speed Racer. He's a demon on wheels.
That wraps up another trip down memory lane. It's not my memory, but it is now. Hopefully you enjoyed revisiting House as much as we did.
And we want to hear from you. Got a favorite memory to dissect from the 70s or 80s? A classic horror movie you'd love for us to talk about? Drop us a line at Schlashback. Let me have another beer.
You gotta stop drinking at work, man.
Seriously. Drop us a line at slashbackcinema.com. Your suggestions keep the conversations alive.
Thanks for tuning in to Slashback Cinema. See you next week. Welcome back to Slashback Cinema, where we
Oh, wow.
right out the gate, where we rewind.
Where we rewind. It made me think of
Princess Bride.
Yes, Princess Bride. Word of mouth is really the best way for people. All right. Word of mouth is all right.
I picked the wrong day to stop sniffing glue.
Seriously. Exactly.